Pregnant woman stranded on highway in labor. Truckers created a wall of rigs. What happened next is legendary. The rain was coming down in sheets, a relentless November downpour that turned the asphalt of Interstate 80 into a slick black mirror, and the wind howled like a banshee, rocking the small sedan violently on the shoulder of the highway. Inside, Maria Rodriguez gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white, her breath coming in ragged gasps, not from fear of the storm but from the searing pain that ripped through her abdomen, a pain that told her with terrifying certainty that her baby was coming, and it was coming now, right here, on the side of a deserted highway in the middle of nowhere, 90 miles from the nearest hospital. Her phone was dead, the battery drained from trying to find a signal, and the hazard lights on her car flickered weakly, barely visible through the torrential rain, a desperate plea for help that seemed to be swallowed by the vast, indifferent darkness of the Nebraska night. The first trucker to spot her was Marcus Ironhorse Sullivan, hauling a load of medical supplies from California to Chicago, and even through the driving rain and the spray from other vehicles. The sight of that small car, the faint flicker of its hazards, the unmistakable silhouette of a woman slumped over the wheel sent a jolt of alarm through him. He'd seen enough stranded vehicles in his 2.3 million miles on the road to know the difference between a flat tire and a genuine emergency. And something about this scene, the way the car was angled, the desperation, in its stillness, screamed that this was more than just a breakdown. He pulled his Peterbilt 389 onto the shoulder 100 yards ahead, its powerful headlights cutting through the gloom, and grabbed his CB radio, his heart pounding with a premonition of urgency. Breaker, breaker. This is Ironhorse on Iminis 80 eastbound at mile marker 287, and I've got a possible 10 minutes 33. A serious emergency situation involving a stranded vehicle. Looks like a small sedan, hazards barely visible, and I've got a bad feeling about this one. I'm going to approach on foot, but I need every driver within range to be aware, to be ready to respond, to be prepared for anything. If you're coming up on my position, slow down, give me space, and be ready to lend a hand. This is not a drill, this is not a request. This is a human being in trouble, and we don't leave our own out here alone in the storm. Marcus grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight and his rain gear and stepped out into the howling wind and driving rain, the elements immediately assaulting him, trying to push him back into the warmth and safety of his cab. But he pushed forward, his boots crunching on the gravel shoulder, the beam of his flashlight cutting a path through the darkness, his eyes fixed on the small sedan, his mind racing, with possibilities, with scenarios, with the grim determination that whatever was happening in that car, he would not let it happen alone. He would not let this woman face this crisis without help, without support, without the unwavering presence of someone who cared enough to stop. As he got closer, the sound of a woman's cry, raw and primal, carried on the wind, and Marcus's blood ran cold. He knew that sound. He'd heard it once before, years ago, when his own wife had been in labor with their first child, and the unmistakable agony in that cry told him everything he needed to know. This woman wasn't just stranded. She was in labor, and she was alone, and her baby was coming, and there was no hospital, no ambulance, no medical help in sight. He reached the car, tapped gently on the window, and when Maria looked up, her face contorted in pain, her eyes wide with terror and desperation. He knew that this wasn't just an emergency. This was a race against time, a fight for two lives, a moment that would test every ounce of his courage and his training and his commitment to the brotherhood of the road. "Ma'am, my name is Marcus Sullivan. I'm a trucker. I'm here to help. Are you in labor?" Maria could only nod, another wave of pain washing over her body convulsing, her breath catching in her throat. Okay, we're going to get through this. I'm going to call for help on my radio, and we're going to get you safe. Just breathe, ma'am, just breathe." Marcus pulled out his handheld CB, switched to channel 19, and his voice, usually calm and steady, was now laced with urgency. with the kind of controlled panic that comes from facing a situation where lives are on the line and every second counts. Breaker, breaker, this is Iron Horse. I've got a pregnant woman in labor, stranded on Eminis 80 eastbound at mile marker 287. She's alone, her phone's dead, and the baby is coming now. I need immediate medical assistance. I need an ambulance. I need anyone with medical training. I need every rig that can get here to form a protective barrier around this vehicle. We need light. We need shelter from the wind and rain. We need to create a safe zone for this woman and her baby. This is a life-or-death situation, and I'm calling on every single one of you to respond with everything you've got. This is the Brotherhood. This is what we do. This is why we're out here on the road, to help each other when it matters most. The response was immediate and overwhelming, a chorus of voices crackling over the CB radio, each one offering help, each one committing to action, each one understanding that this wasn't just a call for assistance. It was a call to arms, a moment that would define who they were, what they stood for, what the Brotherhood of the Road truly meant when lives were on the line. Iron Horse, this is Mama Bear. I'm a former EMT, 20 miles out, pushing it hard, be there in 15 minutes. This is Nighthawk. I'm 5 miles back, got a full medical kit in my rig, rolling to your position. Diesel Duke here, I'm 10 miles ahead, turning around. I've got a powerful generator and floodlights. I'll create a safe zone. Wildflower here, I'm a former nurse, 15 miles out, bringing blankets and towels and anything else I can find. Tell her to hold on, tell her we're coming. And here's where I need you to understand something profound about what happened next, because this wasn't just about individual truckers responding to an emergency. This was about a community mobilizing with precision and purpose, transforming a dangerous, isolated stretch of highway into a makeshift delivery room, a fortress of steel and solidarity that would protect a vulnerable woman and her unborn child from the elements and the indifference of the world. Hit that subscribe button right now, because you're about to witness something that went from a terrifying roadside emergency to a legendary tale of human compassion and collective action. Something that proved that the Brotherhood of the Road isn't just a romantic notion. It's a living, breathing force for good that can accomplish miracles when people decide that helping each other is the most important thing they can do. Within 10 minutes, the first trucks began to arrive, their powerful headlights cutting through the rain, their air horns blaring a symphony of solidarity. Diesel Duke was the first, his massive Kenworth W900 pulling up behind Maria's car, its generator roaring to life, bathing the area in a brilliant white light that pushed back the darkness and the storm. Then came Mama Bear, her Freightliner Cascadia positioning itself in front of Maria's car, creating a windbreak, and she was out of her cab in seconds, a medical bag in hand, her former EMT training kicking in, her voice calm and authoritative as she assessed Maria's condition. Nighthawk arrived next, his rig pulling up alongside Maria's car, and he was already setting up a makeshift shelter with tarps and bungee cords, creating a dry, relatively warm space where Mama Bear could work. Other trucks arrived in rapid succession, positioning themselves in a tight semicircle around Maria's car, their massive bodies forming a protective wall of steel against the wind and rain, their engines idling, their hazard lights flashing, creating a beacon of safety and support on the desolate highway. The drivers emerged from their cabs, some with blankets, some with towels, some with hot coffee, all of them with a shared sense of purpose, quiet determination to do whatever was necessary to help this woman and her baby. Mama Bear, with Wildflower assisting, was already working inside Maria's car, her voice a soothing presence, guiding Maria through her contractions, checking the baby's progress, preparing for a roadside delivery that was now inevitable. Marcus stood outside, coordinating the efforts, directing the incoming trucks, communicating with emergency services on his CB, trying to get an ambulance to their location, knowing that even with the best efforts of the truckers, professional medical help was still miles away. And this baby wasn't waiting. The scene was surreal, a makeshift delivery room created by 18-wheelers, illuminated by floodlights, surrounded by a wall of chrome and diesel, while a fierce storm raged outside. And inside, two women, a former EMT and a former nurse, were bringing a new life into the world, supported by a dozen truckers who stood guard, who provided light and warmth and protection, who had transformed a terrifying roadside emergency into a testament to human compassion and collective action. 11:48 at 11:37 p.m., a cry small, but strong, cut through the sounds of the storm and the idling engines, and a cheer erupted from the truckers, a spontaneous burst of joy and relief that echoed across the highway. Maria Rodriguez had given birth to a healthy baby girl, right there on the side of Iminus 80, surrounded by a wall of rigs, delivered by the hands of two trucker medics, welcomed into the world by a chorus of air horns that sounded like a celebration, like a blessing, like the most beautiful symphony of life and solidarity that Marcus had ever heard. Mama Bear emerged from the car, holding the swaddled baby, her face beaming, and the truckers gathered around, their faces wet with rain and tears, their eyes filled with awe and wonder at the miracle they had just witnessed, the life they had helped bring into the world, the victory they had achieved against the odds, against the storm, against the indifference of a world that often seems too busy to stop for those in need. Marcus approached, his own eyes wet, and Mama Bear handed him the baby, a tiny bundle of warmth and new life. And as he held her, he felt a profound sense of connection, a deep understanding of why he did what he did, why the brotherhood of the road mattered, why stopping for a stranger was never just an inconvenience but always an opportunity to be part of something bigger than himself, something truly legendary. The ambulance arrived 20 minutes later, its sirens wailing in the distance, guided to their location by the beacon of lights and the wall of trucks. The paramedics were stunned by the scene, by the organized chaos, by the sheer ingenuity and compassion of the truckers who had created a safe, sterile environment for a roadside birth. Maria and her baby, wrapped in blankets and safe in the arms of the medical team, were carefully transferred to the ambulance, and as it pulled away, its lights flashing, its sirens fading into the distance, Maria looked back at the wall of trucks, at the faces of the truckers who had saved her and her daughter, and she raised a hand in a gesture of profound gratitude, a silent thank you that spoke volumes about the debt she owed, the miracle she had witnessed, the legendary kindness she had received. The truckers remained for another hour, cleaning up the scene, ensuring Maria's car was secure, sharing stories and coffee and the quiet camaraderie that comes from having faced a crisis together and emerged victorious. They exchanged contact information, promised to stay in touch, and dispersed back onto the highway, their mission accomplished, their hearts full, their belief in the brotherhood of the road reaffirmed in the most profound way possible. The story of the Iminus 80 miracle baby went viral, picked up by local and national news outlets, shared millions of times on social media, becoming a heartwarming tale of human compassion and the extraordinary actions of ordinary truckers. Maria Rodriguez and her daughter, whom she named Hope, became symbols of resilience and the power of community, and they were invited to appear on talk shows and news programs, telling their story with grace and gratitude, always emphasizing the heroism of the truckers who had saved them. The trucking community, often maligned and misunderstood, received an outpouring of praise and appreciation, their image transformed from anonymous road warriors to compassionate heroes who stopped for a stranger in need, who created a wall of rigs to protect a vulnerable woman and her baby, who proved that the brotherhood of the road was a force for good that could accomplish miracles when lives were on the line. Donations poured in for Maria and Hope, enough to cover medical bills and provide a nest egg for the baby's future, all of it facilitated by the truckers who had created a GoFundMe page and promoted it through their vast network. Marcus Ironhorse Sullivan, Mama Bear, Wildflower Nighthawk, Diesel Duke, and the other truckers who had been part of the Amenas 80 miracle became local legends, their names synonymous with heroism and compassion. They continued their roots, continued their lives on the road, but they carried with them the indelible memory of that night, the sound of a baby's first cry, the feeling of holding a new life in their hands, the profound understanding that sometimes the most important deliveries aren't freight but hope, aren't goods but life, aren't products but human connection, and the unwavering commitment to helping each other when the road gets rough and the storm rages and life itself hangs in the balance. Maria and Hope, now a thriving toddler, eventually met up with the truckers again at a massive truck stop rally organized in their honor, a reunion filled with tears and laughter and the kind of deep, unspoken gratitude that transcends words. Hope, a bright-eyed, curious child, ran among the massive trucks, unafraid, as if she instinctively knew that these giants of the road and the people who drove them were her protectors, her guardians, the ones who had brought her safely into the world and would always be there for her, a chosen family forged in the crucible of a roadside emergency. The story of the Amenas 80 miracle baby became a permanent part of trucker lore, told and retold at truck stops and rest areas, a reminder that the road is long and lonely, but no one travels it alone, not really, not when you're part of a community that understands that the most important cargo isn't what's in your trailer but what's in your heart, that the most important delivery isn't to a customer but to a human being in need, that the most powerful force on the highway isn't horsepower or speed but compassion and solidarity, and the unwavering commitment to protecting each other, to showing up when it matters, to creating a wall of Riggs, a fortress of steel, a beacon of hope in the darkest of storms, proving that even on the most desolate stretches of highway, miracles can happen. And sometimes, those miracles are delivered by the hands of ordinary truckers who simply refuse to drive past someone in need, who choose to stop to help, to be the answer to a desperate prayer, and in doing so, create a legend that echoes across the miles and through the generations, a testament to the unbreakable code of the brotherhood of the road.